So here we are back with the Nissan 300Zx twin turbo with the little coolant leak problem. Well, I said little, I mean quite big. We established in the last video that the thermostat housing is leaking because the RCV failed, and also the radiator was gunged up with rusty crud because I didn't flush the system when I put new coolant in, when I basically resealed all this last time with what appears to be the wrong RTV. So we're going to reseal this with all the right RTV. So that needs resealing. There's another one up there that needs resealing. These can come off, 2 bolts, and they can be resealed. I could do that, I'll put it all back together, and I can flush the radiator and I can put new coolant in and probably be good. However, I use the same RTV on that down there, the water pump. So if I don't do the water pump, it's only going to go in the future. The trouble is that water pump is blocked in by the lower timing cover, which is blocked in by this here, the crank pulley, which is obviously attached to this belt here, and also this pulley here, which is for the water pump, which is also going to the alternator, and round this pulley down here is also going to be in the way. So what we're going to do is take all of that off, and I didn't really want to do that. So one of the reasons I didn't really want to do that is also I'm going to have to faff about readjusting all these belts, and there's lots of bolts and stuff you have to get to around the back and they're a bit awkward. So what I'm going to do is, this one obviously I haven't really got much choice in the matter, but that was pretty easily accessible up here. That one was the pain in the backside. I'm going to see if I take these 10 mils out, whether I can pull this off here without slackening the belt, and then I can reapply it without adjusting the belt in the same position. Let's see. So in the interest of health and safety, I've disconnected the battery so the car doesn't start itself, and I have taken off all of the bolts. So we're going to give this a try. Obviously it's not going to work and it's going to be really annoying, but we're going to give it a try. No, there is absolutely no chance that is happening. No chance. So what this means is I'm going to have to resort to drastic measures and do the job properly, because on a Nissan 300Zx there is no cheat codes. So first, get off this belt here, the power steering belt, which goes around the crank pulley and the power steering pump. 27mm big fat socket goes in the end of here, and we got we have got a breaker bar, not a crowbar, which goes on the end of here like that. And the reason that does that is because we got to line this hole up with a bolt there to loosen the bolt so that can swivel there. But also after we've loosened that up, we got to loosen this one up here, and then there's one on the end here which we turn, which basically winds up this screw, which will pull that down, which will slacken that off, and then it'll still be a struggle, but it will come off. So yeah, we move this breaker bar and that'll move that, hopefully. So it's moved that, but we've run into a problem. Yep. So I've got to take it out, put it in, turn it a bit more. So that's lined up. That there is a 14 and it's rather tight. So we're not taking it out, we're just basically loosening it so it's got some pivot on it. Next, this one here is going to be a 12. We're going to loosen that, slack on that. This is nice and greasy, all this. So what you then have is down there, that one there I think was a 13. I've undone that as far as it will go, and this doesn't seem to have moved much, but I remember this was a pain in the backside last time. What you have to try and do is sort of turn this with here and walk it off at the same time. Which is really awkward. Ow. Well, that's off. I'm going to label that PS. piece of shit. Now we're going to put that in the boot of the car and we're going to have nightmares about putting it back on. So next up, what we've got to get off now is the alternator belt. What you got here is you got the same thing. You got a bolt here which you're doing that pulls it back and forth in the bracket, and you got this bolt here what clamps it. So this here is not the bolt. The bolt is round the back, and it's very awkward to get to. So yeah, we've slackened off that clamping bolt. That's what it's called. Now we've just got to establish what size this is, which it's not the same size because it never will be. That one round the back is a 14, by the way, and that took me about 6 guesses. This one is a 13. So I've basically slackened off that lock bolt and I've wound that out pretty much as it came out. What should happen is that should come in and this should slide this way. But then what I've discovered is there is a big fat 17mm bolt up here which it obviously pivots on, which I also need to undo. Yeah, and that's tight. Yeah, so now it's loose. Let's see whether you're gonna move. No, you're not. Oh yeah, you're slacking a little bit. That's better. It's not perfect, it's better. That's going to need some kind of persuasion. So yeah, eventually I think I managed to just pull it enough, he says, to get that off. Twatinator. So now we can take this off. Little tip, these bolts here, undo them before you take the belt off. So now we get access and take a closer look. You can see that that has come from up there and not from underneath, so it's definitely come out of there rather than the water pump. But I'm going to reseal the water pump because, as I said, it's the same RTV and I don't trust it. Now to get this crank pulley off. Now I've tried to get this off with a breaker bar with the car in gear, but obviously it's rocking around on the wheel cribs and that's probably not a good idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, the impact, on the lowest setting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you into a little secret. I've already done it and it's already undone it. But I'm just going to pretend, just for the video. So there you go, that's undone that. So we can now take this out and that out. Now I've got a crank pulley puller and I probably will need it, but this has been off not so long ago, so it might come off without it. See if we're in luck. Of course we're not. No, we're not in luck. No, we're going to need the puller. So the pulley puller is on. Basically got this metal bracket here. We put the bolt back in, but not all the way, so there's a bit of play on the bolt. Got these bolts here which bolt into the front of the crank pulley. When we tighten this, it'll push this against that bolt, which will then allow this to pull back and slide on the little bit of play what there is in the bolt, which will hopefully slacken it off enough to get it off. Hopefully. Yeah, it's moving. Obviously when we can't go any further, that means we've used all of that play up. We need to back this out and then move it along a bit, or it might just come off by hand. We'll find out. It's a very tedious process, because now we're going to have to take this off, take the bolt out and see where we're at. Moment of truth. Nope, it's gonna need a little bit more work. check that's kind of in the middle of the bolt. And take two. Yeah, we're off. Pretty much. And this weighs a ton. So next it's time to take off the timing belt cover. So we're going to take off the top ones here. To do so, we're going to take off the PTU, which is going to be 4 bolts there. Flip that back on the wiring loom. Going to unplug this here, which is for the crank. Well, I'll say crank, because that's the crank down there. The cam angle sensor. And then the time belt cover will just slide over that. That lube will flip back over there. Then we're going to get the bottom one off, which is basically a bolt there, couple of bolts down there, and then a whole lot of wiggling. So if you want to make your life easier, take these off. If you're like me and you like a challenge, don't bother. Yeah, that's not coming off because that one's got to come off first. So not much choice this side. I have to take that off to get to that bolt there, and that will come off around that, and that will come off at some point. No, I'm probably going to have to take that one off as well. So there you go, that's that off. As you'll see, yes, this is broken. It was not broken by me, it was already broken, but I have a replacement for that. You'll see later in the video. This bottom cover is relatively simple. You got a bolt there, and there's one down there. But this last bolt here, which these are 8 mils down here, these are 10 mils there. Don't know why that is. You need to put a 6-point socket on these because they're rounded off. And also to get to this one, you need to undo this bracket and drop it down so you can actually get to it. Now to get this off, you just need to do lots of wiggling. I can't remember which wiggling I did. Well, it come off easier and it went on anyway. So now you can see even more evidence of the leak dripping down here, dripping down underneath the water pump, and sort of in this area, getting flicked up by air and ended up over there somewhere and dropping on the floor. So now it's time to take off the water pump. So you got bolt, 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 bolt. There's a bolt there which is really awkward behind the timing belt, but you can get to it. And this one here, which would have been below the lower timing belt cover, so you wouldn't have got to them without taking it off, and you also wouldn't have got past it anyway. So this is a good sign. I've loosened all the bolts on the water pump, so it's only held on by the RTV and nothing is leaking out, which means that the water pump wasn't leaking. So all the bolts out of the water pump, just RTV holding it on. Put a rag over the timing belt to try and catch what we can from going on there, and put the tub of crap down there, and we're going to take it off. Yeah, nice. So So next job is find the needle nose pliers, because I need to get these 10mm out either side these to get these off, and to do so I need to remove these constant pressure clips which squeeze here and here with some pliers, and I don't know where they are, but I'm going to find them and I'm going to do that. And when I've done that, I'm going to clean all this up and reseal everything, put it all back together, put the radiator in, flush it all out and refill it with coolant.